Lately, I've found myself stuck in playing the big live service games like Phantasy Star and Destiny 2. Any other games I played were AAA JRPGs that were too long for my horrible attention span, or brisk 45-minute action games that were fun for a quick hit and not much else. I'm so relieved that a game like F.I.S.T. exists. Finally, a game that was just right. I could play and enjoy a game. I didn't feel forced to log in to get my daily bonus, grind for weapons that some YouTubers said I needed to have, just me hanging out on a lazy Sunday afternoon and digging into a game with an interesting world, cool exploration, and combat while enjoying the journey with no strings attached. I'm so glad this game is good because otherwise the review would have been titled Forged in F.I.S.T. Forged in Shadow Torch is published by Chinese giant streaming service Bilibili or Anti-Delay, depending on which website you visit, and developed by Shanghai TI Games Network. TI Games. The game is an exploration, action platformer, or Metroidvania for short. It's about 10 to 12 hours long, depending on your skill level, and about how much of a completionist you are. The game borrows heavily and pays homage to similar games in the genre. It is a solid game with a confident combat system and great exploration. It's all tough, all gruff, and no fluff. Well, maybe some fluff. Let's go down the rabbit hole, shall we? Story. The game is set in a dystopian furry world. The Machine Legion took over the Animal City, and despite the animals fighting back, the Legion Iron Dogs rule the city and impose a curfew on the Furtisans, as they are referred to. The Rat Mafia are up to various criminal activities, and the Cat Clan does sneaky things in the shadows. There are various other animals living in squalor outside the city, and other Furtisans trying to survive in this harsh world. Our main character is Rayton, or Ray, who is a former rabbit soldier and an ace pilot in the war that started this whole thing. Urso is Ray's friend. He is a bear inventor and hacker of sorts. Get it? Cause Urso is similar to the Ursa Major constellation, which is a bear. See, cause I'm smart and stuff. There is also Chuan, who runs a noodle house. The Iron Dogs are led by Ray's former friend Cicero, who has become corrupted due to a desire for power. There are many other characters including Duke, the leader of the Rat Gang, and Lady Q of the Cat Clan. There is also this guy.
I get up at 7 every morning and iron my tie. I then go to the energy station to get a full 8-hour charge and pick up a 4-hour temporary battery. I start work at 8 o'clock. I must check, inspect, and monitor the mission roster for 1,000 soldiers every day. Civilized Furtisan, please allow me to leave in a fitting manner.
Everyone is after the Spark, an energy crystal that can give its user great powers.
The Continuum Transfunctioner is a very mysterious and powerful device.
And its mystery is only exceeded by its power.
Well, that doesn't really help.
The gameplay begins when Ray's friend Urso is imprisoned by the Iron Dogs. He takes a fist from an old exosuit mech and puts it on his back, and the adventure begins. The story is not too original, but the world is interesting. There are plenty of NPCs that flesh out the backstory and provide some world building. Cutscenes are short and to the point, but pretty cool. All story dialogue and cutscenes can be skipped or buttoned through quickly. Sometimes Ray stops to get radio messages, and these allow you to walk a little while receiving them. My only complaint is that before fighting some of the bosses in the game, you have some dialogue. If you die on the boss, you have to watch the cutscene or quickly mash through the dialogue every single time. This is fine for most bosses, but even final bosses have this issue. For crying out loud, it's called a cutscene. Gosh darn it. The game looks like the old ID Tech 6 engine, but despite looking like a 2016 game, they do a lot with it. The environments are really nice, the city has detailed backgrounds, and the various places have a great industrial feel to them. The 2.5D backgrounds are my favorite part. They make the world look so much bigger than it is and give a really nice polish to the environments and general atmosphere. The character animations are nice for the most part, but are a little awkward because of the translation. They gesture a lot though, so it doesn't break the immersion too much. There are a few strange texture issues like during this guitar solo, and sometimes the frame rate drops with certain room transitions and doors. Also, there is some texture popping when moving through rooms. Overall, the game runs pretty much without a hitch. It never crashed the whole time I was playing it. I ran it in 1080p 60 though, so if you run the game in a higher resolution or frame rate and have problems like, oh I don't know, door not opening, that's on you. The music is basically a lot of saxophone and guitar for the hub areas and even some of the desolate ones. The saxophone is very versatile. Heck, I should know, I played one in high school. There are some atmospheric background themes, as well as some big banging ones in areas like the prison. They do a good job of avoiding many of the cliches of modern game and film composition, like the big bwah sound or the repetitive da-da-doo-doo-da-da-doo-doo string parts. There are victory fanfares after some battles, and I did notice that they are a little long. I would often finish a battle only to have the fanfare continue for a few more seconds. Only in the final levels did I notice some musical cliches, but they were few and far between. Everything here is confident and serviceable, but nothing stands out, which is good if you want a more balanced, cohesive experience in the overall game. In terms of music though, I won't be blasting the soundtrack in my car. Exploration and platforming. The map is very large and has lots of secrets. You can even start finding secrets when you are backtracking out of a combat zone, which is nice. You can walk, take the subway, or use these tubes to get around. However, there are several parts where you want or have to go back to an area that you unlocked. It takes a long time to walk there, but you can't just take the subway back to the hub area. Sometimes you have to take the subway to get closer to a tube to get to the hub area. It's not very practical a lot of the time. I find that the 10 to 12 hour playtime is nice because the game is pretty bare bones with only a few collectible items like plants in jars, posters to customize your weapons, and skills to learn and master through a training mode, but the game seems to be delaying the main story by adding new tasks all the time. Whether the game would have worked better as a 5 to 8 hour experience versus a 10 to 12 hour experience is a matter of preference, but stopping the momentum of a story to have your character run errands in the sewers is a bit off-putting. It's like an ad in the middle of a video. Speaking of which, haha, just kidding. Please like and subscribe. There are a lot of platforming sections. I found most of them rather easy, but there are a few involving lasers later in the game that can give you a headache. There are underwater parts, and some of them are fine, but others are just as insufferable as water stages tend to be. The first half of the game is really easy. I didn't even die once. This is mostly because you don't lose a life from falling on spikes, just health. When you do die, you just go back to the last checkpoint. The game auto-saves constantly, so you shouldn't worry about having to backtrack too much and pick up that item again. It's very forgiving. There are puzzles too. Most of them are easy and don't delay the action too much, but there is a puzzle to repair an elevator that is part Metroid and part Sonic Spinball. This puzzle would have been okay on its own, but they put it right between the two final boss fights. This is not a good place. Oh no, the final boss just escapes. Let's get him! Hold on. The game steals from a lot of other games. There is this Chozo-style ruin like Metroid, and an escape from a sandworm sequence stolen directly from the Ori games. The line between homage and ripping off is really close here. Well, I guess it's okay. If they're not knocking something off, it's not a Chinese game, am I right? Combat. The combat is melee based. There are basic combos and others you can unlock through collecting data drives and unlocking with a currency that acts as experience. There are air combos, and through experimentation you will find some combos of your own. Most of the 3 main melee weapons you get in the game have a charge attack as well. You have a blue SP bar that fuels your special attacks. It can be refilled by attacking with regular attacks and combos. There are 3 melee weapons unlocked. The F.I.S.T, which is your mid-range, mid-tier all-rounder, the drill as a heavy weapon, and some kind of lightning whip for mobility over power or the ability to stagger. You have an orange EP bar that is used for sub-weapons. You alternate between healing by drinking carrot juice, using an electric baton that will parry attacks, and a ranged grenade launcher. There is also an exploding doll that you get after turning in plant seeds to the vendor in the hub world. You get hit for a lot of reasons and take some pretty chunky damage, so the carrot juice is the most important item for me. The healing gets a lot more mileage than the other abilities because of the little amount of EP you start with, but different types of players might enjoy the different items. Quick fist attacks are fast, while heavy attacks and combo finishers are a bit slow. Basic attacks can be animation cancelled, but the last 4 hits of your combo can't because the animation is too long. The control is solid, but it's your interaction with the enemies and the environments that are the issue. You have a dash, but there are no iframes, so you will constantly get hit by groups of bullets, lasers, and the enemies can't be dashed through either. You have a grab that can be used to toss enemies around, and your SP attacks work as counters to enemies who don't stagger, and even as an OTG. Towards the end of the game, you get your dash upgraded to go through enemies and objects. Where the heck was this during the game? When I was working on this review, I found out that there is a parry ability as well, hidden in a late area of the game, way off the beaten path in a little corner. Why? This would have been nice as a mechanic built into the game. These are all missed opportunities. Maybe in the next game they'll be smarter about this. Enemies are pretty easy by themselves, or if you isolate them. They telegraph their attacks and are pretty dumb. If they do a combo, they will complete the whole thing even if it doesn't hit you, and it provides an opportunity for you to punish them. Some enemies later in the game are smarter and will change their combos depending on how close you are to them. There are ranged enemies with single-shot guns, lasers, semi-auto fire, and spinning projectiles, and the really annoying electric ones that can stun you for a few seconds. Some opponents stagger easily and can be looped. Some block you, some have shields, and others can just absorb your damage. I always run into problems during the first 3 hits of my combo when I see the enemy staggering, but then on my heavier combo attacks the enemy will stop being staggered and counter me. At that point I just get hit because I can't cancel the attack animation to get out of danger. Some, like these ninja frogs, will even zip around and try to trick you. I appreciate the challenge, but seeing an attack coming I can avoid but don't because the game doesn't let me is annoying. Any group of about 3 enemies is doable, but towards the end of the game when you are fighting a flying drone, sniper, a samurai with screen-length dash attacks, a heavy hammer guy, and some low-level charging mooks all at the same time, it gets pretty difficult and cheap really fast. The game has that problem where you can be hit once and fall down easily. You get iframes and you can recover quickly from being on the ground, so that is fine, but a little more hit absorption would have been nice. Also, you can be hit multiple times before hitting the ground and getting your iframes. It's pretty rare, but it sucks. The worst fight that I can remember is having to fight this giant machine with its weak point in the back who shoots bouncing explosives and dashes across the room while dealing with the electric stunning drones and about 2 to 3 constantly spawning enemies. It was pretty brutal. In general, the game seems geared toward precise, clean combat. If you are patient and can wait for openings to systematically take out the enemies isolating them and thinking on your feet, you will win most fights easily. If you button mash, lose your cool, or become impatient, you may have more trouble than you want. This is the first outing by a new developer. It plays well and is fun. I like the characters, the exploration, and the combat is fun even with quite a few annoying problems. The game is impressively polished for what it is, and it's great to see a game that works the first time you boot it up and doesn't have any DLC, microtransactions, or a collector's edition demanding more money. It is well worth the $30, and I hope to see more games like it. This is Dan T from Twisted Banana Production, signing off.